Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm going to be bold here and maybe even go out on a limb and say this is something that affects all of us, because if it's not affecting you personally, you probably know somebody who is dealing with it, and maybe even an epidemic now of it, and that is anxiety and depression. Big thing in our world. I don't know if it's an offshoot of COVID or what. We'll dig into that with somebody who helps people along with that and heals them and recovers, helps them recover from that. She's a rapid transformational therapist. She's a certified hypnotherapist, and she is also a life coach. And she's back with us. Raquel Williams is on the program. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Thank you. I'm doing really well.
I'm glad we're talking about this because in the last year or so, more and more people are talking about it. I don't know if it always existed and now we're being more verbal, or there's just more cases of anxiety and depression. What do you think's going on?
I honestly think that since this whole COVID thing a couple of years ago, we're just seeing more and more of it. And I think that being forced to kind of isolate and not having the social interaction and so forth, I think played a huge part. And all the fear around what was happening really was a trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's almost as if it caught up with us, or we caught up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that.
I don't have answers. I just know I'm seeing more and more of it. And, if you look at the CDC and the reports of the mental health crisis, which certainly this plays into that, it's big now. And people, and I agree with you in terms of the isolation. I think that was the beginning of it, and that beginning of at least of the depression aspect, or even social anxiety. All right, so now the masks came off. We're out. Everything's better now. Or not, because now we've been locked up in the house for a year or so, or very careful, and then afraid to go out, afraid of, to interact with people. Just weird feelings. Is this what you're hearing from people that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I know just from other types of things that I work with people is there's always a point of a trigger. So we can have things that we have dealt with in the past, traumas of our past, experiences and so forth, that it's almost like they kind of go dormant for a little bit. But all it really takes is an experience to trigger that thing inside of you that tells your subconscious mind that something's wrong, and you go into that mode. So I really believe that coming out of this whole pandemic and so forth, a lot of those fears and anxieties and so forth were triggered. I mean, that's my personal belief, and that's why we're seeing more and more.
Never thought of it that way. And this is what we've talked about in past podcasts, in that we have stuff that's buried inside of us from way back.
Yeah.
It could be traumas, well, whatever it might be, childhood, and this brought those out. So what you're saying here is it's not that just because of COVID we're anxious and have depression. This brought that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much what happened to me. So I have trauma in my childhood, but I lived a lot of years not really recognizing that that's what was going on, but I slept fine. Physically, I was fine until one day I went through a series of events and that trigger went off in me. And it took me down for 12 years to figure out what in the world happened. So I'm very familiar with triggers, understanding what that can cause in someone. And so, yeah, I really believe that that's what happened here and why we're seeing so much of this anxiety and depression with people right now.
So going back to your situation, and I appreciate you telling us about it and went into even more detail last time we got together, you weren't doing this type of work. So you didn't know, you couldn't recognize it, whereby now you oh, wait a minute, that was a trigger. This event happens. Now I know what's going on. And that's how you help other people.
Absolutely. I had no idea what was going on. And that's what took me 12 years to figure out. The good news is, whoever's listening to this, you don't have to go 12 years and not understand why your world is falling apart. And yes, today I do recognize that. I see these stress responses in people. And even people that I have worked with that may go back and then experience something else, they're like, Raquel, I don't know what happened. It's like, well, okay, tell me about this week. And then there's a stress response. And as soon as we can clear that, and I do that through the energy work I do, as soon as we can clear that, their nervous system calms down and they feel much better. So we're constantly in these environments and situations and so forth that can cause these types of things in us. But I really believe that once we can get our mind and our nervous system and those imbalances happening in us to a place that we're supposed to be, then you can handle those little events in life without them setting you off like that.
So this helps you manage it in many ways.
Yes.
Wow. So what's the starting point? Somebody is dealing with depression, just feeling just down. Maybe they recognize that they have anxiety. A lot of times they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Where does it begin to heal?
You know, I think the very first step is for people to recognize that there is something wrong. I see so much, and I even saw it in myself, in my past self, we'll say, that we take so much garbage and what's not normal, so much pain, emotionally, physically, and we allow ourselves to live in it. Like we just suck it up, you know, whatever it is, we'll just, you know, brush it off, suck it up, push it to the side. And we do this and do this and do this until we get to that breaking point. And if there's anything I could tell people today, don't do that. By the time you get to that breaking point, there's so much more work that has to be done to get you back, that if we'll just recognize that these things aren't normal and that you don't have to live in that physical or emotional pain, then we could help heal that so much faster and get you back to where your nervous system is good, you're sleeping well, you're getting some joy back in your life, right? And you're wanting to be around people and interact with them. Because what this really does, and what I've seen, is that, you know, people, they begin to just become very secluded, right? They shut down. They don't want to be around events or people, or they become hermits. I'm looking for the right word here, but you know, they just close themselves off because they don't like how they feel around people or social events or so forth, or they're just so depressed that they have no desire, no motivation whatsoever to get dressed or get ready or go anywhere. Like it's all so overwhelming. So it's very, very sad. It's heartbreaking.
And you know, even sadder is, as you, and I totally agree, you just put up with it. It becomes your new norm.
Yes.
Years go by,
Yes.
and you don't realize, okay, you're dealing with the anxiety and depression, but you don't realize what it's doing to your body.
Yep.
Other things going on psychologically, physiologically. You're literally beating on yourself, and you don't realize how impactful it is. And I don't want to say how easy it is to turn it around, but you're not even taking the step to turn it around.
No, and I think it's because we're so programmed to just suck it up. We're so programmed to not be vulnerable or to show how we feel or talk about how we feel. And it's very damaging because anything can become normal, Steve.
Yep.
That's the crazy thing, right? So any madness in your life can become normal. And so I really want to encourage people that if something is off, if you find yourself anxious, if you find yourself sad, you know, depression is great sadness. Something's wrong. And it's just a matter of pinpointing what is the cause of that, helping the body release that energy, helping your mind to understand the truth and bringing balance back. You're out of balance. That is the bottom line.
So you got two things going on here: anxiety, depression. How do you attack those in helping somebody?
Well, we have to deal with each one because each one is different. You know, anxiety, there's always this great fear. Okay, there's just a fear, there's just uncomfortable, overwhelming feeling. And so first thing we'll do is I really do a deep dive with people to understand what's happening in their life. Once I understand that, then I'll do some energy work just to begin to get that nervous system to calm down and help those thoughts. Generally, people that are experiencing this, they can't shut their brain off. And I used to say it was like a machine gun, like that, 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 like you just can't get your brain to just be quiet. And so I want to help people just get a little relief. And then we'll go into an RTT session and start to get to, okay, what are the experiences? Let's bring some clarity around this. And so it really is, it starts to unfold. You start to see this picture, and then people can understand themselves. They gain clarity. They begin to see where it started. They start to feel better, like they can breathe again. I had a girl that she's young, and she would never drive in the fast lane because she was just so anxious all the time. So she was in the slow lane all the time, just very nervous. After we worked together, she's like, I'm driving just fine. She's like, I can actually go in the fast lane. I can't believe it. And she was so excited. And really, it's just helping the mind and the nervous system remove the imbalance. I'm just going to call it that, because whether it's a thought, a looping pattern of thoughts, or an imbalance in your system that's causing you to feel this, once you remove that and you can calm all that down, it changes everything. So there's really not this big mystery. People think like, oh my God, how do you find it? We find it. Your subconscious knows what is off. I just help you get to it.
Yeah, you're not okay. So yeah, we should make that clear. We talked about it before in terms of hypnotherapy, but it's not like you're healing somebody, you're helping them heal.
That's right. That's right. I'm not healing anything. What I'm doing is I'm guiding you, leading you, and then I do energy work that helps the body release these trapped emotions that are also causing some of these imbalances, right? But even that, I'm really communicating with your subconscious mind that's showing me where this stuff is, so then we can release it. So I'm not healing you. Your body knows how to heal itself. I'm just helping you do the work to get your body to be able to do that, because there's so much junk in our mind and in our bodies that it's like if you can imagine your sink, when it gets clogged up, you got to take all that gunk out and allow things to flow the way they're supposed to.
I don't want to sound old here, but when I look back go back like 100 years, whatever, simpler way of life, people weren't dealing with what we're dealing with now. We have so much information flying all over the place, social media. There's so much choices in terms of anything we want to see, watch, listen to. It's great in one way, but it's bombardment in the other way. And of course, we have social media, which really is just isolating people, which is, oxymoron in itself. I had this conversation with my son yesterday about everything you need is in you to heal.
That's right.
And you and everybody else need to listen to your intuition. It's going to tell you if you can quiet the other stuff out. And he was like, Rick, really? I'm like, yeah, really. You can heal yourself. We can all do it. You just need to get the stuff out of the way. But you can't, unfortunately, nowadays, you can't easily do that. And that's where you come in with RTT, hypnotherapy, and other modalities, energy healing, to help somebody get that clarity to kind of figure it out and then tap into what's going on inside of them.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. By the time someone's done working with me, I give them so many tools, because I don't want you coming back to me. That's not my goal. I want to be able to help you and then teach you so that you can continue to live this life and have the peace and the joy and, whatever it is you're looking for, and just know how to manage yourself. And you're completely right, because when we look at social media, and there's just so much bombarding us all the time, and these doggone phones are very addictive. And so you have people in front of their phones on it all the time, and they're losing a sense of who they are. They're losing the ability to communicate, to feel. We don't want to feel, Steve. So instead we'll jump on the phone, or we'll put something on, or we can't even be quiet. It's like silence for people is maddening. And that's a sign. It's like we need to you talked about in the past that this wasn't an issue. I agree, because we didn't have all of this. It's like we need to go walk in the sun, put our feet in the grass, go to the ocean, take a deep breath. I mean, these things sound like, oh, yes, get out of your house.
It works.
Go into nature.
I was just going to say that.
Yes.
Ever since as a kid, I would hear, I got to get back to nature. I got to get. Now I get it. Now I get it.
Yes.
There's something about it that makes you relax,
Yeah.
kind of quiets your mind. Do you think that a lot of us are afraid? We're
Oh, yeah.
afraid to hear ourselves. We're afraid to be confronted with this, what we have in front of us. So we move to the next thing. Let me see what's on. I'm going to change my playlist. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Time for bed. Wake up. Back to it. Back to it. Back to it. We're afraid. What do you think?
Yes, yes, and yes. We don't want to feel, Steve. We have learned to numb ourselves, to become so over entertained, overstimulated, over everything that we don't have a chance to feel shit. Excuse me, but it's like we're not letting nothing in. Yes, absolutely. And you have to start to unplug from this stuff. We become so disconnected with ourselves. And part of also what I teach people is to reconnect with themselves, to connect with that part of themselves that has been so badly ignored. When your body starts to shut down, when things start to hurt, when you can't sleep, when this anxiety and depression starts to rule your life, there's a disconnect and an imbalance happening there. It's not normal. And this is where you start to see if it's not handled, this anxiety and depression will just lead into other things. It'll lead into this part of your body starts hurting this. You're not sleeping, your inflammation, issues with your gut. I mean, I see it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what does that lead to? More depression, because now you're saying, oh, I feel like garbage. I'm like crap. Oh, something not right. Oh, and
then you're not working out. You're not eating right.
Yep.
You're taking this medication, that medication, that medication. And hey, I'm not here to tell you not to take anything, but I am going to tell you this. A lot of people are over medicating because they don't know what's wrong. And instead of trying to figure out what's wrong, they just want a pill. Just give me a pill. So to make me feel better. The problem with that is that you're not changing anything. You're masking your symptoms. And what's going to happen is you're going to get to the point where you need another pill. And then you need another pill. And then you need another pill. I mean, holy cow, you see people with like 15, 20 pills that they're taking every day.
Yep. I'll be perfectly transparent. I went to the doctor yesterday and I said, I had lab test. First time, I don't go to the doctor, typical guy, right? First time I had lab results in maybe 3 years, something like that. Had a lot going on, got a lot of stress going on, and I'm usually, everything's perfect, no issues. Elevated slightly cholesterol, and I was concerned that maybe pre-diabetic, but I read the results wrong. I read them before I went in. She goes, "No, you're good there. Don't worry about that." But she goes, "You're right at the point where you might want to take a cholesterol med." And right away I said, "Nope, not doing it. Not doing it." I said, "I know what I have to do. I have to work out more, like really be mindful of it, and I do, but I don't really. I got to sweat my ass off. There you go. I have to. I got to kick it in big time, watch my diet, and minimize the stress, and that's it." And she's like, "All right, well, come back in 3 months, and then we'll do it again, and we'll see how we go." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And that's it. I already know. I already had the answer. I know what I need to do. I'm plugged into my body and all of that. And she said, yeah, stress, situations going on. I don't deal with anxiety, depression, but it's just stress. That She goes, even if you are working out, even if you are eating right, if you have too much stress, your body still can't process. If you have so much stress, you work out 7 days a week. It's not going to make a difference. But you need to listen to your body and react accordingly. And yeah, don't do meds if you don't have to, because all it is just masking it. It's not fixing it. We think it's a fix. It's not. It's not.
If it was a fix, then there could come a point where you could stop taking it and you're still good. Okay. It's not a fix. That's why it's like forever. Like when do you hear people getting off cholesterol medication? I think my father took it until he died. I mean, it's not a fix. It's here so you can feel better. But what if we just learn to unplug a little bit? What if we just learn to deal with what's happening inside of us, in our mind, in our heart, in our body, right? What if we can just give our body the space it needs to breathe so that our nervous system can relax and we can deal with the bear that's chasing us and why you can't sleep? And what if you just dealt with that so that you would have the energy to work out, so that you would have the motivation and feel good in your life to get out and walk on the beach and enjoy a picnic in the park with your family? What if we just dealt with all the crap that's making you feel so bad that all you want to do is stay home, be on your phone, watch a movie, drink, disconnect from the world? This is not normal. It's not normal. And there is an answer. I've seen enough of this in my own life, in my family's life, in clients that I work with, to know that you do not have to sit here. I have to share this. I have a client who lived with horrible, horrible, horrible depression, to the point that's like, she said her husband just doesn't even know who she is anymore. Okay. After 2 weeks of us just releasing and getting the body to breathe, she came in here literally like skipping. I'm like, hey. And she said, my husband looked at me and said, I feel like I got my wife back. That's everything right there, Steve, because she had lived so many years where she couldn't find her way out of the pit. She was going down and down and down and down. And she did the medicines and she did the things and she was losing herself. And her husband loved her, but didn't know how to reach her. Like, this is a real thing. And like, you don't have to live there that way. Yeah.
She was stuck in the quicksand and she was just progressively going down.
And it's not like she wasn't trying. She was trying everything she knew to do.
She was trying to claw her way back out of it again, but she wasn't getting any traction. Wow. Do you feel, Raquel, that, to paint a picture here, when you have a great night's sleep, you got 8 hours, everything's fantastic. A lot of us, it doesn't really happen that often, but you woke up and it's like, wow, I can think. I have clarity. That's the best word I got. I got clarity on situations. Is that kind of what it's like going through treatment like this?
Yes, because when you don't sleep, and I can speak on that very well. Yeah. Your mind is tired, your body is tired, you're foggy brained, you're lethargic. There's nothing. Your energy is just at a zero. Mm-hmm. How can you think? How can you want to do anything? You're exhausted. So yes. And then you get those 8 hours, like you said, and it feels, I remember saying, oh my God, I feel human. Yeah. I feel human again. Like, do you know what it is to go from barely can get out of bed to let's go work out? I love telling my husband, let's go on a hike. I want to go on a hike. Like, I love getting out in nature and just hiking and enjoying the sun on my face and having the energy to make plans and the motivation and the peace inside and joy. I mean, holy cow. Yes. Like, I got my life back. Yeah. It makes all the difference in the world. And I didn't know, Steve, because I took 12 years pursuing doctors and medications and food plans and juicing and you name it. I did it. And I'm not saying those things don't work, because they absolutely helped me along my path so that my flare-ups weren't as horrible and so forth. But they weren't my answer. And when I finally released the imbalances in my body, got my mind in the right place, I got my life back. I feel better now than I did in my 20s.
Wow. It works. And it's not, I've experienced it. I know others that have. And we're talking about, a thing called RTT, hypnotherapy, essentially, in the broad description to make it easy for everybody. That's where we're at here. Tapping into your subconscious and pulling out this garbage that's been in there for a long time. and is holding you back. And by the way, on the medication side of things, big pharma loves this. That's why it doesn't heal you. That's why you're on it forever. Because
it's not meant to. That's not the objective.
right, exactly. Because they want to make money. That's it. That's the way it is. I truly believe we'd have a cure for cancer by now.
Yeah, so do I.
How do we find you? How do we free consult you offer, right?
I do. My website's raquelrwilliams.com, and that's Raquel with a Q, RAQUEL, rwilliams.com. And you just schedule a free consultation. We can chat, or you can call me 415-347-6861.
Love the way you make everything so clear and personal, and you're real. And that's that's half of it. If somebody's trying to find somebody to work with and help them heal, that's a relationship right there. And you're very genuine. And I think it means a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
And everybody wake up. I mean, seriously, I mean that. Wake up to a wonderful life. It's all here. We're coming right back.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.